My name is Christian Hicks. I'm 30 years old and I'm from San Diego, California. And the camera's my weapon. I take pictures. I wouldn't necessarily call myself an artist or a photographer. I want to say I was 6 or 7 years old. My mom was going to YVC, which is, I think it was Yakima Valley Community College in Washington. And she took a few black and white film photography classes there, and enough of them to get hooked and turn our bathroom into a dark room. So I can recall seeing that all black shower curtain makeshift dark room in, I think, either a garage or a bathroom when we were a kid. So that was probably the first time that I had seen any sort of film or an enlarger or that process. Had the unique opportunity while I was at Palomar College to take this landscape photography class with Donna Costantino. She was a professor of mine for a few classes. I took my mom's Palomar K90 with me on this landscape photography trip. The whole class was centered around us shooting on I think it was a week or a 2-week trip in the Eastern Sierras. Loaded the camera and ended up shooting that role at Manzanar. It's a Japanese internment camp in, I want to say, just south of Bishop in the Eastern Sierras. And I shot, I want to say, most of that role there. And the images that I got from that role, I didn't develop it until months after the class, and months later. The images that I got in the role, just, you know, one of the 24 were so much better than, or spoke to me so much more than any of the other digital images that I had gotten on the trip. And I think that's right when I made the switch. I'm very wary when it comes to talking about film and how it is aesthetically different or better than digital photographs. For me, it's more about the process. So I hope I'm not answering this question, but I shoot film because it works for me, and it's not necessarily because of it being a look that's different from digital. I think we can easily get the film look in post-processing programs today. But that's thinking about what you're capturing and adjusting what you're trying to say after the fact instead of behind the camera. And so I appreciate film for how it impacts the aesthetic or my photographs during the process of going about getting it, not necessarily the look after or the result. Film uniquely impacted my approach to photography in the sense that just as a person, I'm kind of all over the place and I need structure, and or I believe I need structure, because in certain, I guess, situations or times in my life where I've had structure, I have excelled. And I think just film gave me the structure I needed in order to make the approach of photography or trying to express myself through photography manageable. Film photography made me feel invincible in the sense that when I would go about, you know, getting a shot, this is very much Donna, who I had mentioned earlier. I feel like I remember her saying, you need to shoot it in camera, get it right then, don't crop later, do it now, do it in camera. And I think because it's film and you had to do it in that time, that I would crop in camera, and I couldn't help but, because it cost money or I had to wait, I couldn't help but think about it a little bit more deeply. And so as a result of that, I started taking pictures of things with more intention, or anything that was composed or in the image was there intentionally. With film photography, it already starts, you know, you can't help but have an understanding mechanically. Whereas I went into photography initially shooting digital, and you could put it on the green square, or put it on portrait, put it on P, and have no understanding of photography technically or composition, and still, what I believe, get some great images. Maybe they're snapshots, maybe not, but you can still get some great photos. And with with shooting film and understanding the functionality of it, what ISO does, what aperture does, and what shutter speed does, and the relationship between them all, you really start to realize that you're not at the mercy of this box or the mercy of the green square, that this is a tool. And film uniquely influenced my approach to photography, and knowing that the true value was what was upstairs in your head and what's, you know, in your eyes, what you chose to point your camera at, when you chose to, and why, not necessarily the camera doing it. I think that I hate the cliche thing that people say. I guess hate is a strong word, but I try to stay away from being a lifestyle photographer. I pretty much just take pictures when I have my camera with me, and I try to make it a point to always have my camera with me. There's no say in what grabs my eye, although there's obviously subconscious influences that are working on what I find interesting or what I've photographed over the years. But I would say that whatever I've consistently shot over the years, the majority of it hasn't been intentional. It's just maybe been something that just catches my eyes, and for some reason I can't explain what it is in my life that has led me to thinking that that's interesting or valuable. Digital is the future. I don't know who had said this, but I think it was a video recently I had seen where, why would you use someone had said, why would you use an old camera or an old process to get new perspectives or capture new ideas? And that, you know, I try to hold in the back of my head, because I mean, it's a lot harder to capture the polar bears in Antarctica with a 4x5 camera, you know. Why are you using such an old process to capture something that's so novel and hard to capture? And so there's always gonna be a place for digital. If not, there is more of a place for digital than there is film. But it depends on why you even get into photography. Are you doing it for therapy? Are you doing it to express yourself? Are you doing it to make money? Are you doing it for social justice? You know, are you trying to raise awareness of what's going on with the polar bears in Antarctica? So yeah, I think it depends on what you're doing, and sometimes digital is much more effective in trying to capture the story that you're trying to tell than film is. Film for me, I have a much different mindset, digital versus film, in that I believe that when, I like this, again, I don't know where I heard this, but when I go out and I photograph, I believe that I'm going to get a good photograph. I believe that a moment is going to happen in front of me. Like, I am positive about it going into it. And I like, because I think that that's contagious. I think that things do, you know, serendipitously or coincidentally happen in front of you when you want them to. If you have that, you turn those eyes on. And it's just like with film. Not only do I like the fact that I've turned it on, but now I've turned it on Portrait 800. Now I've turned it on HP5. So now I'm thinking in HP5, or now I'm thinking. So if I'm thinking in black and white, now I'm looking for shadows and highlights and I'm focusing on subject matter. And I think that's important, to think like that ahead of time in the process. And so when I go into film, I'm like, okay, you know, it's gonna cost money. You only have 36 shots. How could I epitomize what it is that I'm trying to say here with 36 pictures? So I'm moving a little bit slowly, you know, or slower than I would digital. If I had all the film and all the resources, I would share it with people, because I don't know where I'm gonna go with my photography, and I don't know if my photographs will ever do anything, or if they are doing things already, but I do know that I feel really good when I see someone get the same thing out of film photography that I do. I will say a lot what I've shot, almost like 9 of the 13 years of photographing have been Fuji Color 200, which is a particularly cheap film stock. It's very blue, or at least when it fails, it's more of a blue tungsten color. So that's not my favorite, but that's what I shot the most of. But if I had all the money in the world, I would be shooting portrait. I love the skin tones, Portra 800, 400. My favorite camera is the one that I have the greatest understanding of, because it helps me get what I need to get. And for me, it's been this Pentax K1000. I mean, I've had it long enough that its sentimental value is insane. I think people should get into film photography because not only does it change your perspective on photography, but literally like everything. I guarantee you, if you pick up a film camera a year later, you're gonna be buying records, you're gonna be making your own bread, you know, you're going to be pissed about the fact that when you show up to a friend's house, you don't go up to their front door and knock on the door, you tell them, hey, I'm outside. Like, it's just, if getting into film photography does so much more for you than just the photographs. It's the hardest part is that I don't I spend enough time in the darkroom. You know, I want to spend more time in the darkroom, and there's so much more to do with photography, like so much. And so I struggle with the idea that I can't explore all of the whole process of photography. I don't know. I really don't know, because it's changed so much even in the last 10 years. And it's interesting. I really can't tell you where it's gonna go. I know that I'll do everything I can if it starts to head south to sell all my possessions to get some film fridges in my garage, you know. But it's, I think I think that we last as long as the last person that remembers us. You know, it's what we do for others in life, you know, and the impacts that we make on others that make us live past our own life, you know. And I think that as long as people that are alive, they continue to shoot film photography, it's gonna stay alive. And hopefully the gatekeepers and the tastemakers of today and photographers choose film photography as a medium, because they're gonna be the ones that keep it alive as long as they're alive. My name is Hicks, and I shoot film.